It's a question sweeping the globe. Just what does a book editor do anyway? And I'm answering it right after this.
Tune in to Go Book Yourself, powered by Helix Interactive, with your book coach and publishing expert, Hilary Jastram.
First of all, let me start by saying J. Hill Mark is our jam. Just in case you don't know that. They pay the bills and we love them. As the parent to Bookmark, our book publishing division, that's a brand new thing. I just sent in the paperwork yesterday. We're now a publishing house helping authors everywhere get published. They offer the support we need to help more people get their books into more readers' hands. So if you're curious about how that works, go ahead and send us a message to jhill, Hill Mark, jhillmark.com, and we'll get you hooked up. We'll get you started on your book writing journey. Let me tell you, there is just nothing at all like it. So today I want to talk about a topic that I hear a lot about, okay? And that is, what the heck do you do? Hey, I need a book editor, but I don't quite know what they do. Does a book editor write? Does a book editor only edit? Does a book editor do any type of ghost writing? What am I getting myself into? Do they do any formatting, etc.? So I want to clear the air and I want to make sure that you understand what you're getting into and what you're paying for. So I've got a list of 10 things. You guys know that I'm a listicle queen, right? The first thing is that we are not writers, and I have to spell this out for people a lot. We are not writers. We are editors. If you want us to write, then that's something that we need to talk about. So then we would look at potentially a partial ghost writing agreement where maybe some of the content would be written. And I try and chop this up. I'm a fan of 3, so I try and chop this up accordingly. So are we going to write 20%? Are we going to write 50%? Are we going to write 80% in partial ghostwriting, for example? And then if we're writing 100%, that's no longer partial ghostwriting. That is full on ghostwriting. So we're not writers. We'll suggest, I think we're professional suggesters. That sounds about right. So we will suggest, and I like the relationship. I like the analogy of you're the captain. If you're the author, you're the captain and I'm the navigator. So you're going to say, hey, captain, I want to go over here. And I'm going to say, okay, well, that's great. But if we go over there, then we're going to get stuck in the weeds. So you might want to rethink that choice. So we are not writers for you unless you want us to be. And it depends on the editor too, because some editors are like, no, man, I'm not going to do that. I want to stick to proofing only. Some editors are only proofers. Some proofers do not do content editing, for example. So the content editing, that's that super deep dive edit. So that's like, how am I telling my story? Am I using dialogue? Am I sharing the characters' internal thoughts and things of that nature? Is everything structured correctly? Is the order in which the story is coming out, is that resonating with the reader? Is that making sense with the reader? So that's what an editor thinks about in terms of the content editing. Line editing is a little bit different. That's kind of like line by line. What is this word choice and why are we using it? Do we have some redundancy? So if we repeated a word here and there, that's another way to look at it, or it's another level or tier of the professional services that an editor can offer you. And then proofing is full on just grammar punctuation. So we're not writers unless your editor is in it with you in terms of that. That's the agreement that you make together. Okay, I want you to help me with the writing. And so then we would talk about, well, what does that mean? What percentage are we talking about? And what's your aptitude? For example, do you like writing? So there's all kinds of different things, but it's in the title. We are not writers unless you want us to be, and unless that particular editor is down with that. So that's the first thing. Second, an editor holds no judgment. It's a safe space. I often tell my authors that you are creating this perfect space of no self-judgment in this zone. So somebody handed in their transcriptions yesterday and they said, it kind of went against what I typically do, which is I like to take it, throw it through Grammarly. I like to kind of massage the content a little bit so I feel a little more confident about it. And I said, no, you're going to speak and release, or you're going to write and release. So giving yourself the permission to suck. And I believe this is in Natalie Goldberg's book, and I peddle this book out regularly, but giving yourself that permission to suck just kind of releases you from that pressure. You detach from that pressure so you don't have to worry about it so much. Like, oh, I have to be perfect. So if I have to be perfect, I'm going to be frozen in place and then I can't do anything. Obviously, you do not want to go there. So you have to give yourself permission to suck. It's okay. Sometimes what we need to do is just get the content out. We need to get it out so we can move on and transition to our next topic. And some of the content that we get out is not very glamorous. I've talked about this before. We just need to get Jack to the store. He doesn't need to sashay there. He doesn't need to gallop there. He doesn't need to wipe a sweaty hand on his brow as he grips the gallon of milk. He doesn't need to do those things. Sometimes we just need to get him to the store, take the action to move that story along, but hold no judgment for yourself in that way. There's no reason for that. And it's not productive. When you hold your judgment for yourself as well, then that means that you're saying, well, I didn't do as well as I thought I would because my bar for doing well is super high. Like it's way up here. And that's not fair either. Because if you're a perfectionist and that's where you put your bar, you're actually not going to reach that bar. So you want to make sure that your expectations are commensurate with what you are delivering. That's why you hold no judgment for yourself. Look at it like a task. I got to get this done. This is also why you had to hire an editor. That's not going to, you're going to go through the process. Let the editor do their job of refining that content, making it sound better, making it sound awesome, working with you so that your style is still preserved. But you're not going to write the great American novel or the great American nonfiction book just like that and it's going to be done. You're not going to do that. So that's number 2. We hold no judgment. Number 3, we're going to help you tell the story and we're going to use a little bit of magic. We use storytelling enhancements. And I've talked about this before, but we'll go over it again. Super easy, super quick. 3 things, easy peasy, easy to remember. 3 things or whatever you want to, however you want to do it. 3 things. I can't talk and apparently move my fingers at the same time, but I like things that are 1 step, 3 step, 5 steps. Use one hand. I like those types of things. So hopefully this resonates for you too. In terms of helping you tell your story, taking your reader there. And if you're an entrepreneur or you're a business owner, right now, storytelling is hot for brands. It's also, I don't think, ever going to fall out of favor. And the reason is because people are attaching to you. And that need to attach to another human being never goes away. It never goes away. Whether you're reading like a Valvoline ad or you're just pulling that out of the air, you're reading a book, you're on somebody's website, you're listening to somebody in Clubhouse, whatever it is, there's a human part of you that connects to that human part of whomever that person is. If it's a character on the Valvoline ad and the single mom is like super happy that she got her oil change and you saved the day, or it's a book and somebody's laying there dying and they're professing their love and and your heart is just screaming and opening because you understand it. That's the human experience. And that is why we write. And that is why personal brand overlap, when we're using those elements, is so incredibly successful. That is also why there's a lot of confusion too, in terms of this personal branding. And people will be like, I feel like I know you. I feel like we hung out before. And you go, no, but I guess we did a really good job in making you feel that way. So that's a really good thing. But our storytelling enhancements, we drill it down to those three things like we talked about. One is setting the scene. And this goes all the way back to English class and that English teacher that used to drive you crazy. And she would say, set the scene, show, don't tell. And I always used to wonder about that. What do you mean by that? I needed that kind of drilled down for me. So I'm not telling you anything about the book. I am providing events and I'm describing areas, I'm describing environments, but I'm not telling you, the reader, how you feel about it. I'm not telling you how you feel about being chilly in an Arctic tundra. I'm not, or I take that as, see, I totally did it there. I take it back. We're in a freezing Arctic tundra, period. I'm not telling you how you feel about it. I'm not telling you if you're cold. I'm not telling you if you're hot. I'm not telling you any of those things. And the same whole, this is why we often don't use ly words too, which any of my writers listening to this are going to be like, oh, here she goes. But I'm not telling you how you feel. I am listing out events. I'm setting the scene. So I'm saying so-and-so is sitting over there. They're sitting there. This is what the relationship is. This is what they are saying. So that's one way that we would enhance a story, is through setting the scene and showing it and not telling it. We also like to move away from emotions then, obviously. So I was feeling that type of a thing. Nope. There's different ways, if somebody's feeling a certain way, then try and describe their facial expressions, or try and describe their body language. There's different choices that we can make there. Number 2 is dialogue. Dialogue is tricky. Dialogue is used sparingly. It's used to progress a story forward. And you never want to reveal like the whole plot of a story in dialogue. That's actually kind of lazy if you think about it, because you're not interweaving in backstory elements and making it as dynamic and fresh and exciting for the reader as possible. Dialogue is also familiar. Hey, honey, hand me that plate in the cupboard. I'm not going to beat this one into the ground because you guys know where I'm coming from. And number 3 is sharing your internal chatter or your thoughts, which is great. It's a great juxtaposition. It might not even match your body language at all. So that's why we like to include those things. But a good editor, and yes, this does apply to nonfiction, because again, we're using the personal elements of storytelling to draw that viewer, that listener, that reader in. It's not just reserved for fiction anymore. It used to be like, huge. And then you'd have like these business books, whatever. The trend now, and I think everybody's seeing this, is that any business book is telling the story, because the reader wants to know the story. Why am I going to work with you? Why do I care about your services or your products? I want to know your story, because that's a gauge of your integrity as well. So that's number 3. Number 4 is we hope you write for the reader. And there's 2 words here. Well, it's really one because they're connected by a hyphen. Reader-centric. You are always reader-centric. It's so great writing a memoir. Feels so cathartic. It's fantastic. Get it off your chest. It's therapeutic. It's all of these wonderful things. But you have to put the reader first. So, reader, I wrote this book for you, and I went through this pain so that you can avoid going through your pain. And that is a very popular thing to do right now, but it's also very effective because everybody's pain is different. So it kind of never gets old. Somebody's story over here is totally different than somebody else's. Maybe they arrived in a similar place or destination, their coaches or whatever the case is, but the story is always different, but it's got to be reader centric. I experienced this pain for you. We champion you. That's number 5. We champion you. We are your biggest cheerleaders. I would say honest cheerleaders, because I did back in the day, I worked with a publisher and he was like, you just tell the authors, like, you just cheer them up and make them feel good and probably don't say no to them very much. And that is not true. I like to make a cookie. I like to say, here's something positive. Here's something we can work on. And here's something positive again. But you need to work with an editor of integrity who's going to be honest with you and say, that's not effective. I'm working with somebody right now who loves pronouns. He just loves them. And while we love pronouns, that is not the correct way, like peppering them liberally in our content is not the correct way. And it's going to get flagged. So it's not even a matter of like, I don't like that style. It's more like, this is not correct, or this is coming across as too redundant, which undermines the quality of your work. So we have to have those types of conversations. Your editor is going to be a champion for you, but an honest champion as well. If you come back and you say, man, I am in love with pronouns and you are never going to take them away from me. Okay. If that's how you speak, then that's great. At least we've had the conversation. You have been advised about it and you're moving forward, making that decision. But the point is that we've had the conversation. 6 is we help you improve your writing. And I think this is pretty obvious, but it's like taking a very intensive writing class. I know when I hired an editor in New York City literary circles, like back in the day, I hired this guy and gosh, I'm trying to think freaking how long ago that was. And it maybe was like 2010 or something like that. So I hired him and it was the best thing I've ever done because it taught me about dialogue. It taught me more about setting the scene. This was a person who said, this is an effective format for best-selling books, for New York Times best-selling books, because this was before Amazon, or maybe Amazon was just like a glimmer in Jeff Bezos' eye. I don't know. But it taught me what was effective, what worked. It also taught me the formats that didn't work. So there were times when I was like, I'm going to rip this story apart. I'm going to put this whole new ending on. Nobody's ever going to see it coming. And the protagonist is really going to turn evil and all this stuff. And he was like, no, actually, you're not going to do that. So, but it taught me the process. And so I think it's important that your editor also is vested in training and making sure that they're learning from credible individuals. I also think it's important that your editor has written a book. And the reason that is, and this is just a little side shoot right here. The reason that is because they are able to commiserate with you. They can empathize. Actually, they can sympathize with you, which is rare because many people can empathize. Sympathizing is rare. They can say how you're feeling right now, that you're very confused. Up is down, down is up. And you don't know if this is a normal part of the process or if you need to kick that to the curb. I've been there. I know how you're feeling overwhelmed. You don't know where to start. And so you're not going to start. I've been there. I understand it. How you're feeling right now, torn apart. You know, you're looking at the edits that come back and it's very discouraging. I've been there. I understand how you're feeling when you pitch something and it's not accepted and you've done your best and you're just kind of hitting your head against the wall and you don't know which direction to go now. I've been there. I understand it. And I'm able to offer that level of human emotion back and say, okay, so this is what worked when I felt really low. This is what worked. And this is what helped us move forward. So I think that's actually pretty important. You will improve your writing. My writing improved. I look back at what I've written in the past and I'm like, let's just bury it in the backyard and we'll never speak of it again. And you might feel that way. And totally fine. It's totally normal. And in fact, I think you want to feel that way. I think you want that progress to be so significant that it moves you. So, number 7, we tell you what to worry about and when. So if I hand you homework and you're like, oh, I got to get this done. I got to get it done all right now. I'm a list checker. Check, 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 check. I will tell you, if I'm not worrying about it, and if I'm not pounding the pavement, getting his text, email, whatever, I don't want you to worry about it, which is a nice thing, because if I say, go ahead, take the night off, go have a glass of wine, go sit down and relax, I mean it. I don't want you to worry about it, because I already know what needs to be done. I know when it needs to be done, and I know how it needs to be done. And I know on my team who's going to do it. So we take that worry off the plate for you. And any good editor will be able to answer questions concerning timeline, milestones, and things of that nature. What is this experience like? What can I expect? That's what you should get from a good editor. And number 8, I guess I skipped ahead, but we advise. This is the captain and the navigator. We advise, don't go there, go there. And this is why. And making sure your editor is up on their best practices. I am continuing to research the bigger piece of the pie in marketing, I guess we'll say, beyond Amazon, because we know how to get you to become an Amazon author. We've gotten very good at that algorithm. I'm pecking away at New York Times bestseller lists, Wall Street Journal, USA Today. That's where the value is. That's where the value is going to be moving forward. Those lists are based on sales, and they cannot be manipulated in any way, shape, or form, which is why they stand the test of time. Number 9, we hold you accountable. I will find you. I have a very unique talent. I will find you wherever you are in the world. I will drag you back by your reluctant little feet and make you sit there. No, I'm kidding. But I will hold you accountable. I'll reach out and say, hey, how's it going? What's going on? Do you want to talk about anything? It's such a great job, because I get to meet some incredible people. And part of getting the book done is the accountability and talking through it. You want to procrastinate? Okay. That's okay. That's okay that you want to, but let's talk about it, because you're not going to, but we're going to talk about it. And then we'll see, do we need to do something else to move the work forward? That's the biggest key, is I'm here for you. Any editor will be there for you. They're not going to get mad at you. Make sure you have that transparency with your editor and say, hey, I just really can't move forward today, and here's why. That's really important. And number 10, we're going to drive you crazy. We're going to ask you to clarify, provide answers. We're going to ask you to get specific and reword until it is fantastic, until it is competitive, until you feel thrilled about it and you can broadcast your book from the rooftop. That is the point. When you emerge sweaty, tired, with tears in your eyes and sand in your face and grit in your hair, when you emerge in that way, you have earned the title of author. And we will be there for you every step of the way. The key word is advice. We can't make you do the work, but we can hold space for you while you do it. And when appropriate, we're going to help you. We'll help you finish your thoughts, organize content, paragraphs, and things of that nature, just so they're easiest to digest for the reader. There's that reader-centric thing again that I told you I'd drive you crazy on, because that's what I do, man. I'm a professional crazy maker. Ooh! And we'll help you select the genre and give you any other guidance that you need. So I want to thank you so much for joining us today. I believe this is episode 12 of Go Book Yourself. And it is now that time, authors. It's time to go book yourself. Until next time, write on.